Hello, on tonight's South Bank show we meet R.E.M, one of the world's leading rock bands. Formed by the singer Michael Stipe in 1980, there were 4 original members with Peter Buck on guitar, Bill Berry on drums and Mike Mills on bass. 3 of them were natives of Georgia, a largely rural state. R.E.M's work retains a distinctively southern feel, even on their last album, Reveal. They achieved superstardom with the anthem Losing My Religion in 1991 and then remade themselves as a trio after Bill Berry's sudden exit from the band in 1997. Recently, they've been in the papers after Peter Buck was charged and then cleared of drunkenness and assault on board a British plane. His friend Bono of U2 stood up in court to defend him, and he's here again tonight, talking about R.E.M's links with the Beatniks. Bill Berry, now farming in Recluse in Georgia, didn't give us an interview, but Mike Mills, Peter Buck and Michael Stipe did, talking freely about their beginnings, their different personalities, their maturing musicianship, their love of the road, and that voice.
I don't know that I really found my voice as much as it found me. I decided when I was 15 years old that I was going to be a singer in a band, and that was a really beautifully naive and innocent decision to make, and I stuck with it, and I did real well.
Smack, smack, crack, push, whack, tie another one to the racks, baby. Hey, kids, rock and roll. Nobody tells you where to go, baby.
Michael's always been the one that has wanted to push things as far as we possibly could. Peter's been the most knowledgeable about music in terms of rock and roll and how to deal with the things that it brings to you. I was a little more trained than anybody else, so that comes in handy sometimes. And Bill was always a more grounding force, sort of the voice of reason in many of the discussions that we would have.
Hey, kids, where are you? Nobody tells you what to do, baby.
I think it all comes back to the fact that Michael, and myself are the 3 most stubborn people on earth. And I always felt, as little as I knew about the music business and as little as I knew about business in general, that when anyone would ever tell us something like, you need to do this, you need to have a big drum sound, I'd always think, what do you know?
Maybe you did, maybe you walked, maybe you rocked around the clock.
So our feeling always was, well, we know better than anyone else on earth, even when we're wrong. And we were wrong all the time. But I kind of like the fact that we were wrong in our own way, as opposed to being wrong in the way that one usually is wrong, which is taking advice from someone else.
Hey, kids, shake a leg. Maybe you're crazy in the head, baby. Ollie, 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 and come free, baby. Hey, kids, where are you? Nobody tells you what to do, baby.
Early on, we were all really similar in what we listened to the same records, we read the same books, shared the same clothes actually a lot, and lived together 24 hours a day. I think that probably we had the exact same record collection until 1989. And it wasn't until the 90s that all of a sudden our personalities musically and whatever started showing through, because we were building lives for ourselves outside of the van, basically. That's when we all became cranky and weird and ancient.
I thought Athens was just this hippie cow town. In fact, I remember saying, I will never live in that fucking hippie cow town. It turned out, well, yes, it was a fucking hippie cow town, but it also had this nascent, is that a word? Nascent scene, music scene going on, kind of revolving around the B-52s.
The scene in Athens was very individual, and nobody wore leather jackets. You know, it wasn't, everyone took the punk idea, and that was, well, you do whatever you want to. It was kind of a reference to rock and roll, but it wasn't rock and roll, and we were a part of that.
The main thing about Athens, it's in the South, it's rather conservative. To be different is to be brave. So there was a core of the same maybe 50 people that went to the same shows and listened to the same music and had the same dance parties, and because there weren't really any clubs that the bands we liked could play at. So what people would do, they would have a party, and you'd have the band play at your party. And you know, when they weren't playing, you'd spin records and people would dance, and then the bands would play and people would dance. And it was just very insular, but it was also, you know, kind of an odd little family of people who felt, you know, the same likes and dislikes, and also knew what it was like to be ostracized.
Well, when we started out, year zero was kind of punk rock for us. And even though we'd all loved music that wasn't punk music, it seemed like everyone was starting over of our generation. And in a way, we kind of just were swept along on that tide.
There's so much joy in just being able to play a loud electric guitar. I mean, it's a lot of fun to have that much power and volume at your fingertips, and a lot of musicians are, you know, they were not the most popular kids in high school. They're not the jocks. They're the skinny weirdos that got picked on. So all of a sudden, you know, here's something I can do that will render you completely speechless, because even if you talk, I can't hear you. So it's a very empowering thing.
I was the only person in my high school, probably in the state of Illinois, who appreciated punk rock at that time. So I was really kind of out there on my own with it. But I sought out and found people who had similar musical interests. And one thing led to another, and then I wound up in Georgia at 18 years old and started the band at 19.
I'm an American artist, and I have no guilt. I seek pleasure. I seek the nerves under your skin.
The other thing that's really odd is the early days, I think, I had never seen Patti Smith perform. She was such a hero to me.
Mole on the belly of an exquisite horror. You spare this child and spoil the rod. I have not sold my soul to God.
The day that it was released, I went out and bought the first album by Patti Smith, Horses. And I sat up all night listening to it, and I was physically sick. It was such a revelation to me. It was epiphanal. It's one thing to perform live and just get up and caterwaul, which is really basically what I did. I mean, at best, I was doing a teenage kind of male imitation of Patti Smith, or my idea of what she would be like. I think that what became my vocal style probably had to do with Mike's love of the Ramones and R.E.M's penchant for writing really fast, really frenetic songs. I thought they were too fast, and I wanted to slow them down, and they wouldn't play slower. We were all speed freaks at the time. So I just started singing slower, and I started stretching out my vowels, and I slowed the songs down by making my part much, much slower. And that served me well, you know, and it kind of evolved into a vocal style, I guess.
Perfect circle of acquaintances and friends. Drink another coin of phrase. Heaven assumes shoulders high in the room. Heaven assumes shoulders high in the room. Heaven assumes shoulders high in the room.
When we started, we just wrote a ton of songs right away, and thought, oh, well, that's how you write songs. You know, we didn't really know what we were doing, and it seemed about 6 months into our playing as a band, we started writing songs that actually kind of, if they weren't literally about something, the lyrics were creating this kind of sense, and the music was kind of coalescing. So Sitting Still in Radio Free Europe and Gardening at Night, I think we wrote all those within about a few days of each other, and they all felt like, oh, wow, we're writing songs now. You know, they actually have a band characteristic.
Too soon, shoulders high in the room. Standing too soon, shoulders high in the room. Standing too soon, shoulders high in the room. Standing too soon, shoulders high in the room.
That voice, it's an extraordinary voice, and I often, you know, tell him I think he's a crooner. He doesn't like that very much. But it is sort of one part, you know, some sort of Bing Crosby, 50s laid-back cool, and one part Dolly Parton.
When I listened to Murmur and Reckoning and Chronic Town, the first EP that we put out, what I hear is something that the sound of the voice and using the voice as a vehicle for emotion and using the voice as an instrument rather than a communication device.
We were on the road for all of '82 and writing and rewriting and came up with a lot of the stuff on the record, and we felt very strongly that, I mean, I had the order of the songs before we ever recorded the record. It's like, this is side one, this is side two. And, we just went in and cut it live and then just did tons of overdubs. And we had a very succinct idea of what we wanted it to sound like.
I had not learned how to write words yet. And if I just kept talking like that, nobody could understand what I was saying. At some point or other, I had to start writing words. The first song where I felt like, wow, this is a real song was probably the 25th or 30th song that we wrote, and it was called Gardening at Night.
Changing every month. They said it couldn't be a
it worked really well for 2 records for me to just sing about the furniture or about, you know, nothing, and it was a lot of non-words or a lot of words that didn't make sense. But after the second record, I had to change what I was doing because it wasn't working anymore for me. And I kind of, I guess, created my own style of narrative, or my own kind of narrative.
Night swimming deserves a quiet night. The photograph on the dashboard, taken years ago, turned around backwards so the windshield shows.
Michael would write all these lyrics and have huge tons and reams of paper and then kind of edit it down. And it wasn't necessarily on the first album to make literal sense. I mean, it was supposed to be an experience. You'd put the record on, and when it was over, you'd just go, what was that?
I forgot my shirt at the water's edge. The moon is low tonight.
You know, and also he was a little shy about being the singer and the front man of a band. And I mean, if you saw us in those days we'd tour, we had no lights. We had like one little light that would shine off to the side, and we'd be playing in the dark.
Night swimming deserves a quiet night. I'm not sure all these people understand.
We were trying to find a way to do it that we felt hadn't been done to death in a real cliched manner.
Getting caught, of recklessness and water. They cannot see me naked.
I'd never been to where they live in Georgia, in Athens, but I felt you could see the sunshine and there in their songs. They left me with a picture of the place they grew up in.
September's coming soon. I'm pining for the moon.
Well, some of Michael's lyrics and some of the things that go into the stories he tells are very Southern.
I think more than anything, probably just the approach, which does seep into the material, and it does seep into the feeling that you get when you listen to it, is very Southern and it's very different from a more urban approach.
I thought you knew me, this one laughing quietly underneath my breath. Night swimming.
They were certainly so connected to a Southern kind of sensibility, the heat of the South and the sweat and the kind of sense of the craziness of the South and the sort of strange, almost gothic sort of thing that's mixed in little secrets of the South.
The other night I drifted nice, continental drifted by mountain, sit in a light, Leonard Bernstein, Leonard Brasnap, Lenny Bruce and Lester Banks, birthday party, cheesecake, jelly bean, boom, symbiotic, patriotic, slam button, nap, right? Right. It's the
when you look at Southern artists, once again in any medium, whether it's literature or visual or music, there is something, and it's almost like a darkness and a sort of hidden struggle, and maybe part of that relates to being in an environment that isn't necessarily friendly to artists.
You know, you got your Southern culture. Culture is actually about people, you know. You've got a different culture than I've got. Now, even though I like country music. It's obvious I listen to country music. I like country music. I like R.E.M. The one you're talking about, that's my favorite. I have to have them all, yeah. Have them all. I would certainly wouldn't admit it to my friend, you know.
They were awesome. We saw them at the 40 Watt Club before they had actually cut an album. I mean, they were nobody. They were just, you know, R.E.M., local boys. They were really good.
In the early days, the music almost had a folk kind of thing, and those origins, that sort of outsider artist thing, that still is there. That's still there a little bit, that kind of touching on a kind of human place that's not stylish exactly, or not sophisticated in the obvious way that some bands might be. I think they're actually, I think they've never been sort of an urban band. I think they've always had a sort of sense of being outside the city a bit.
A lot of the melancholy, a lot of the romanticism, and a lot of the quiet in some of those songs is that it comes actually from a deeper folk music, you know, which is Appalachia, Old English balladry. You know, they're actually drawing through their experiences in punk rock initially. They're pulling in the same things that affected Bob Dylan as a songwriter initially, that affected Jerry Garcia as a bluegrass instrumentalist. They weren't going back directly to those songs, but it was that almost common knowledge that has seeped through pop music through the sort of 20 years before they really became a band when they first started in 1980.
R.E.M. is that we've always been in love with both the high energy rock and roll and the beauty of melody and emotion and atmosphere. It's become more apparent as we've gone along, but it existed even in the very beginning. Michael has a very, you know, warm, emotive voice, and while he can sing rock and roll as well as anybody, it's really nice to be able to use that voice in a sense where it can be heard and sit out there with some lovely underpinnings underneath it.
Look up when you see all of you and all of me, fluorescent stars. Some of them they surprise. The bus driver went to write this 4 a.m. this letter. The fields of poppies, little pearls. All the boys and all the girls, sweet tooth, each and every one a little scary. I said your name. I wore it like a badge of teenage film stars, hash bars, cherry mash, and tinfoil tiaras. Dreaming of Maria Callas, wherever she is. This fame thing, I don't get it. I wrap my hand in plastic to try to look through it. Maybelline eyes and girls, boy moves can take you far. The star thing, I don't get it.
The growth of the band was very incremental and gradual, but I do remember there was a time when I was walking down the street with Peter in Athens, and we looked at each other and we said, yeah, when we weren't being snotty, but we said, you know, we're actually, I think we're better than most of these bands that are doing this. And so we realized that, you know, man, we don't have to have a day job now. This is great, and we can actually pull this off at least for a while. We'll see what happens. And that was sort of really the only epiphanal moment that I can recall, because everything else was just such a steady climb.
Smoke out, drink, here comes the flood. Anything within the blood, these corrosives do their magic slowly.
I felt really strongly at the beginning that we should share publishing. That was my idea, and it was fought very hard for. And Mike just said no. I wrote that song, and I want the publishing myself. And I said, you know, what breaks up bands is ego and money. and we all got plenty of ego. Let's make sure we share the money. That's songwriting to me. And it's nice that we were at the same place financially. You know, I mean, it would be really hard to do this if one or more of the other guys, you know, was making half the money, you know.
And it's just far and away, I think, the best decision we ever made. And the whole rest of it, you know, follows from that. I wouldn't want to be in a band where I didn't have equal say. You know, I wouldn't. There's no way this band could have lasted this long if we all didn't have an equal voice in the things we do or don't do. We see how things have to be, and you know, we've all managed to sublimate our egos at one time or another enough to keep things going.
And I just felt strongly, well, that this is an ideal community that we're building, you know. I mean, it had to be a democracy. Everyone had to have a vote, had to be equal. And we were lucky enough to work with some great bands early on that, you know, the Gang of Four, committed kind of socialist theorists, and the English Beat, who, you know, an interracial socialist group, you know, and we'd hang out with them, and it kind of influenced us. Like, yeah, this is the way to go. You know, we're not doing this to buy a fur coat and a Cadillac. I mean, we're trying to do something else.
Michael, as a lyricist, has the sort of roving eye of a filmmaker, or in the case of his lyrics, a documentary filmmaker, but with random structure. So that's me in the corner. That's me in the spotlight. You know, you arrive in the middle of the action, somebody pointing you to a moment in time where something is happening to them, which is turning the way they see the world on its head. Those kind of lyrics, they're almost out of a screenplay.
I thought that I heard you laughing. I thought that I heard you sing. I think I thought I saw you try.
I bought a mandolin. It was just as simple as that. I was on tour in '89, and I'd been on the road pretty much for 10 years solid, I remember. And it was getting to the end of the tour, and I just felt, you know, I don't think I'd ever bought new clothing even. You know, I had one leather jacket that I bought new, and I just felt, you know, I'm going to go out and I'm going to buy a musical instrument today. And, you know, I went into the shop and found this. It was the weirdest mandolin ever. It had this weird shape to it. I didn't even know it was a mandolin. And started playing it and wrote the song kind of immediately. Kind of just showed up. And the first time we played it as a band, it just sounded exactly right. You know, we played it perfectly. Michael walked in because, I've got something, and he sang it. It was done in about a minute. But, you know, in a real way, it changed all our lives. I mean, it's what made us sell like 30 million records in the space of like 4 years, for better or worse. You know.
Choosing my confessions, trying to keep an eye on you, like a bird lost and blind before. Oh no, I've said too much. I've said enough.
Someone said to me, a friend of mine said, I always know when it's R.E.M. on the radio or in a bar because your voice is so distinctive. And it had never occurred to me that I had a distinctive voice, which is kind of funny, but that I had been in this band for 18 years, and I thought that a lot of other people sounded not like me, but sounded kind of the same, and that I just kind of sounded the same too. And in terms of potential, I don't know. I mean, I don't think we would have ever recorded one song if we didn't think that it was worth doing. I don't really know how to answer that, frankly. I mean, we were the band that didn't have any goals beyond me wanting to make a record at 21.
Michael's persona on stage has been through a number of stages. The first shows that I saw, you know, he was, it was tornado time. You know, he was in circles, racing around, you know, the way his body would just sort of like spin, almost like on a pivot. It was on an axis, you know, his hair flying in all directions. You know, it was like a visual metaphor for everything that was going on behind him. Peter's guitar, the bass, and the drums, what Mike and Bill were doing. And as that show had to fill bigger and bigger rooms, you know, I saw them literally go from clubs into theaters, into, you know, bigger theaters, and then all of a sudden they were playing, you know, arenas and trying to deal with the issues of sound and the issues of projection, because everything they had done up to that point was based on a certain understood intimacy that they were trying to connect with everybody as a group and one-on-one. And when they went into arenas, I think that was a difficult adjustment.
I know what I want here. I know what I want here. I know how I want here this to be. You go down to the water, drink down to the water, fly up off the water, leave it be. But this is not my dream, sister. It is going heaven. I'm not sprouting wings.
When Peter plays, there's a strong sense of fuck off that comes from his side of the stage. And you feel that he wants to be in a band because he loves what they do, but that's all. And so almost like performing and having to deal with all of that is a bit of a compromise for him, so just fuck off. And I like that energy a little bit, and that gives them their aggression.
Brother, can't you see those birds? They don't look to heaven. They don't need religion. They can see. You go down to the water, drink down the water, fly up off the water, leave the beat.
All of a sudden it got really big, and it was kind of confusing for all of us. The 95 tour was just things we weren't used to. Hundreds of people camped outside our doors, and we'd look out and go, is there someone famous staying in this hotel? And then you realize they're there for you, and it was weird and confusing.
This one goes out to the one I love. This one goes out to the one I've left behind.
Bill hated it. He hated to travel, and, you know, in the middle of that tour, he had an aneurysm on stage, collapsed. I thought he was going to die. It was the weirdest night of my life.
This one goes out to the one I love.
He had months of recovery where he kept thinking, I guess, that, well, I'm spending my life doing things I don't really want to do.
This one goes out to the one I love. This one goes out to the one I've left behind.
I guess his feeling was, well, he could just say, well, I don't want to tour, and I don't want to do this anymore, and drag these guys down, or I could quit. And as much as his friend and musical compatriot, or whatever, I wish he'd wanted to stay, it made me feel guilty that he was so miserable all the time.
and we decided to continue performing as a trio, and that took a toll. It was very difficult to adjust from being a four-piece into being a trio, and it took the better part of a year and a half, and the recording of an entire album to realize just how difficult it was.
All right, if you hear any bad notes here, just sing along a little bit louder in your head, and everything will be cool. We can all go home with happy memories.
You know, it just threw everything off. We had a real miserable experience making the Up record just because it was brand new territory. We were trying to figure out what to do. Didn't know musically what we really wanted to do.
Receiving department, 3 a.m. Staff cuts have sucked up the overage. Directives are posted, no callbacks, complaints. Everywhere is calm. Hong Kong is present, Taipei awakes all. Talk of circadian rhythm.
I guess it comes down to the fact that, again, we're very, very stubborn. I think most bands, if the drummer quits on the first day of the record, would go, hey, you know, just back off a little bit and maybe we'll come back in 8 months. But no, we just kind of went straight to work. I think it's a good thing, actually. I mean, I think we might have broken up if we'd had time to sit around and think about it.
Day sleeper.
You know, around as long as R.E.M. are still doing their best work. That's really unusual. I think Reveal is one of the best records they've ever made. Just beautiful melodies, beautiful singing, really evolved songwriting.
All the way to Reno, dusted the non-believers and challenged the laws of chance.
A lot of that was kind of demoed at my house, and it sounds kind of like my home demos. I like to do things in one take, and so there's all kinds of mistakes on my demos, which I actually like. And then we try to incorporate the mistakes into the song. I don't know, I wanted it to be kind of beautiful and glacial. It very much felt like, you know, for me, a freeway going through some kind of desert or two-lane road. And Michael quite often picks up on those little clues.
You gotta be a star.
Music, to me, great music is cinematic. You hear a song and it comes complete with colors and characters and lights and motion and landscapes and buildings and what have you.
It's written on your feet. Your Achilles heel.
The Reveal record, it feels to me like Michael's writing in character a lot. He tends to, without giving you clues, inhabit a character, write something, and then people always think, well, he's writing that as himself. But I quite often see characters, you know. The person in Reno, I'm pretty sure that's a female.
You didn't have to go so far. You didn't have to go.
It very much captures a feeling, you know. It's a very specific space when I listen to that song.
You gotta be a star.
This combination of the drum beat and the great sort of Western guitar sound.
You gotta be a star.
Michael has a very painterly way with words. He was not writing in a linear way. He was writing about states of mind, states of loss, states of confusion.
I would put Michael Stipe in direct line of the beats, you know, down from Jack Kerouac, right? It's that tradition. Through, I suppose, Patti Smith and Allen Ginsberg and all that, right there to Michael Stipe. Is an American writer, the end of the 20th century, the start of the 21st, describing, you know, the things that fall between the cracks.
It's not that she walked away. Her world got smaller. All the usual places, the same destinations, only something's changed.
When I was 15, I thought Jack Kerouac was the best writer on earth, and On the Road was, you know, our personal birthright.
That she wasn't awarded pomegranate afternoons, Mingus, Chet, Baker, and Chess. It's not a stampede in fortune
Well, you know, we're Americans, and, you know, all you gotta have is a car, a cup of coffee, and a couple ideas, and you're ready to go.
She knows now it's greater than the whole of the past. It's greater, and now she knows.
On Reveal, we just did it as much as an ensemble as possible. And you have a few ideas when you go into making a record, but my feeling about it is generally that the songs will tell you what they need. As you start to record them, you'll hear things that need to be there or don't need to be there, and the record will begin to take shape and tell you what kind of record it's becoming. Again?
Generally, Mike and I write music, and I tend to be a lot more bossy or I know what I want. So I tend to put down demos with all the instruments on it and go, this is what this should sound like, blah, blah, blah. It should be this tempo. Mike tends to not want to do a lot of recording beforehand, but bring in stuff and just see what happens, which is great, too. You know, it's nice to have both ways. And, you know, we've started the process where we give Michael tapes of what we're done, and he kind of just works on them.
Making Murmur and the next record or two, it was very much a live recording process. You know, we had the songs, we'd been playing them on the road, we had them down, we knew how they were, we knew what each part was going to be, and you go in the studio and you play them.
Sounds good. Yeah, I like it.
That's simple.
Kind of beefs it up.
Okay. Think about maybe get a pop filter on it.
You bet.
As that goes on, a little bit later, you're writing songs, you're taking them in the studio, and you haven't played them on the road for 6 months.
Sounds good.
Yeah, those guys kind of big, chunky thing.
It's very unsettled, and there's a lot more room for experimentation and ideas. It makes the process a little more spread out. You know, it takes longer because we want to take longer. I mean, we could still make a record in a week, but I don't know if that's exactly how we'd want to do it right now.
1, 2, 3.
Mike Mills is actually probably their secret weapon. He's kind of sturdy in a way. He's very rooted. He also has a very strong pop sensibility. You know, he can go on for hours talking about the Beach Boys and Pet Sounds, and a lot of that aspect of the vocal harmonies, a lot of that is Mike. You know, that's something that he really brings. It's almost like a sunshine quality.
I don't really feel the need to be a leader, a direction chooser. I tend to take things as they come, and if I see that there's a problem or if there's something I disagree with, I'll say something about it or try to move us in a different direction. But I'm more content to just do what I can with the things that we create.
It's the right way, but you'll never be the one.
I think from day one, musical proficiency was not really that important to any of us. Perfectionism is frankly kind of boring.
With the friends who just aren't mine, party to party, you've been looking, but your search will never end.
What you're going for is, without sounding too hippie-ish, is kind of you want to get something on tape that breathes as much as the song possibly can, and often that's filled with a lot of mistakes.
It's all planned out in my head, and then I don't ever get what I want. So, you know, but yeah, I have we talk about it, and I always have strong opinions about what we want to do. The thing that we're working on now, this summer I wrote all this poppy stuff. I felt kind of liberated and all that, and then lately, because of all the, you know, whatever's going on in the world and whatever's going on with me, the stuff I'm writing is a bit more chaotic and darker, so I don't really feel poppy anymore. demo was really kind of weird and scary and slow. But it was one of those songs that wanted to be something else, and as we put it to the band and started playing it, it sped up and it got poppier. Essentially, it's just a bunch of schmucks going into a studio and making noise until something occurs that makes sense. I think we're a little bit better at what we do now.
You've got it all, you've got it sized.
One of the things that we did this year with Reveals, well, we felt we didn't want to tour. We didn't want to get in the bus and do that whole hitting every city and, but we wanted to play a lot. We wanted to keep it kind of special. So we've been doing free shows, benefits. It's been a very kind of liberating thing.
No one can see you try. No one can see you try.
It was the sort of thing that I've always liked to do. If I'm walking by a guitar, I just have to sit down and play it, or a piano, and you can just sort of lose yourself.
That sugar cane that tasted good. That's freezing rain. That's what you could. Come on, no one can see you cry. This sugar cane, this lemonade, this hurricane, I'm not afraid. Come on, no one can see me cry.
Whatever talents we have, they don't overlap much. Mike doesn't want to be the lead singer. I'm an awful singer. We have really distinct talents that kind of help each other. If I was the leader of the band, I'd be selling 2,000 records and singing off key, and that's okay. But having people that have real great strengths that I don't have, we can rely on each other and help each other out a lot.
Martha Moore in the game of life. Yeah. Andy Kaufman in the wrestling match. Yeah. Monopoly 21, checkers and chess. Yeah.
For whatever reason, we were kind of hurled together many decades ago into this group, and for whatever other reason, we chose to stick it out with each other. And for whatever other reason, we remained the best of friends, probably better friends now than we were at 20 years old, at 21 years old.
Andy, did you hear about this one? Tell me, are you locked in